story that's made you the most money. You're like, wow, I want to hear that.
The story that's made the most money is definitely
If your kids had to introduce you to the stage, like, how would you like them to introduce you? Like, what would you like them to say when, if it was ever going to happen one day? I'm sure it will. Like, that would be pretty cool.
that would be, the biggest compliment I could ever give for my kids for sure.
Welcome to the Top Speaker Podcast. I'm Richmond Dean.
And I'm Kaylee Chu.
And today we're going to talk about how to use your voice for more impact, influence, and creating more income in your life.
I am with the man himself. Probably doesn't really need an introduction, but going to introduce him anyway. Many of you know him as the man who built ClickFunnels and changed the whole industry with the funnels, and he's put through $1 billion through funnels and also sold multiple best-selling books. This is my first entry into Russell's world. I personally know him as not only my coach, my mentor, but a husband of over 20 years to Colette, father of 5, and over the last couple of years, I'm really grateful that we've also become great friends as well. And so please welcome to the Top Speaker Podcast, Mr. Russell Brunson.
Hey! Thank you guys for having me here. I'm excited to be hanging out. It's so fun.
We're super excited to have you too, Russell. And so on that note, like, this was the first dollar I spent on you, Russell, years ago, and probably I wouldn't even count it because it's free plus shipping. So, you know, I mean, you count that. But since then, it's been an awesome journey. But the first program I bought from you, Russell, was actually the one where you spoke at Grant Cardone's 10X. The speaking one where you sold the record 3.2 mil. That was the first time.
You were there?
I wasn't actually there. I watched the recording or whatever it was, but you sold a course on how you did that. That was the first course I bought from you, and the first time I actually saw you properly speak. And so I guess that was you, you know, in your element. But the first question I want to ask is, tell us about the first 2 or 3 experiences speaking, because I couldn't find anything online, and I'm guessing you deleted it because it was.
I have some footage I could send you if you really want to see it. But
Good, yeah.
yeah, it's funny because I never had desire to be a speaker. Like, I was very introverted. I was in college, I was wrestling, and I was trying to figure out this internet thing. And so I was selling a couple things online, having a little bit of success, and then there was this big seminar coming up, and it was called Big Seminars, Armin Morin's event, who was one of my first early mentors. And they were going to teach us all about internet marketing. So I was so excited. So I remember I signed up for it. I think I paid $1,000 and I flew out to it. And I think there was 500 or so people in the audience. And I didn't know what to expect. I thought I was going to sit there with my laptop taking notes and how to do SEO and, you know, whatever. Like, I thought that's what it was going to happen. And the first speaker got up. I still remember his name was Mike Littman. And Mike spoke for 90 minutes. And at the end of it, he did a presentation. And like, people ran to the back of the room and they bought his product. And the next person got up and they spoke. And I was watching speaker after speaker. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to learn how to speak, but I was doing the math and how much money these guys were making as speakers. And I was like, wow, like, I have to learn the skill set. I was like, if I see a human being who's just like me step on stage and in 90 minutes make $100,000, like, I have to figure out that skill set. And so that started me down this path. And again, I was really, 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 really bad. You could ask my wife, you could ask anybody like seen the videos. Like, it was not a skill set I had at all, but I saw people do it, and so I was like, I have to figure this out. So I started practicing. I went to a whole bunch of speaker trainings. Like, Armin Morin had one, and Bill Glazer and Dan Kennedy had one. I was just trying to learn how to do it, and I still don't think I'm a great speaker. Like, if you look at, you know, National Speaker Association, I don't speak great, but I've learned how to speak to sell. And learned a few things along the way. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started, as I just saw the people do it. I'm like, I have to learn. And also, sorry, one other caveat. I remember I served a mission for my church, and I remember there was a time when I was really struggling, and there was this conference, and I remember one of the speakers spoke, and I remember, like, it had, like, you know, the impact on you. You're like, you're crying and you're all emotional, and I was like, it's so crazy that someone can get on stage and have something that, like, literally transform me. And I remember after that, I used to like watching people who were good speakers, and just like, I loved how, like, someone who could speak well, how they could make you change, like, you make you feel something, make you want to be someone better or something different. And so I just like loved watching really good speakers for a long time before I ever decided to try to learn the skill set myself. So yeah.
So good. Hey, Kaylee knows a lot about NSA and that kind of more
That world.
that world and more structured speaking. So Kaylee, do you want to talk into that, and what do you think, like, the difference of what Russell is doing now?
I love Russell's speech. I was there in the Funnel Hacking Live earlier this year. And when you talked about your mission and vision, The first message I sent to my husband was, I wish I've got $1 million because I want to be in. Like, you really touched my heart. I go, this is so good. And seeing you getting multiple standing ovation, I'm like, Russell is so, so, so cool. So on that note, I just wonder, because you are so advanced now compared to where you were the first time. So if you were mentoring the next top speaker finalist, what are the two or three things that you would, I don't know, like ask them to master in the next maybe 90 days or so that they can do what you do or turn their voices into a seven-figure business?
Yeah, I think it's funny because when you see a lot of speakers, you see a lot of really bad speakers, and you see some really good speakers. And again, for me, I always like study like what are the things that made me when I watch a really good speaker that made me feel something, right? And it was rarely, if ever, them teaching here's step one, step two, step three, right? It was always the story about something that makes somebody feel something, right? Like that's the key. That for me, if like a speaker's really good, is if the person when they're sitting on the side, they feel something, right? It's like you said, FHL. I think I got two or three times where everyone stood up clapping, and it's because like they felt something, right? And so for me, what the way that usually happens is I spend a lot of time thinking through the story and the storyline I want to share somebody, right? Like storytelling is one of the most important things. And most people, when they tell stories, they do it incorrectly. They do it based on the facts, right? Like I did this, and then next I did this, and next I did, they go through like the logical facts. But you have to realize is when you're telling stories, your job as a storyteller is you're trying to get somebody to feel like physically feel something, right? And so the way I do that is I have to like humans have empathy, especially when you're sitting in an audience. When there's you on stage and they're sitting out in the audience, like they're mirroring, they're matching you, right? So when you're doing something, they can feel the same things. And so when I'm telling a story, I know people have empathy, like I have their attention, I've got this connection with them. And so I'm telling stories in a way to get them to feel. And the way you do that is you describe how you feel, like one of the FHL presentations, I shared kind of a timeline of the last 10 years. It wasn't like, here's number one, here's number two. Like I found what are the key stories that I was going to share along here that I had an emotional reaction to, right? That were like very hard for me, very painful, very, or very happy, very exciting. And so I tell those stories, but I don't just say, and this is what most people do, like, I was trying this thing and I struggled. It was really hard. Like that's like they said the words and what happened, but like you talk about how you feel like I was there and I was so stressed out. And like, I remember sitting there just like sick to my stomach where like that uneasy feeling where it's like the knots are tightening up in your stomach. And I remember like on my hands, like I was like, my hands started sweating and it was weird because I was sweating, but I was cold. I had like that weird shivery. And so you start like explaining how you're feeling. And what happens is people are mirror and matching you is that as you're going through these emotions, they literally start feeling the same emotions that you were feeling. And so if I want to give somebody like an epiphany or I want them to have the same experience I had in this story, if I just tell them the story, they don't have it. I have to get them to feel what I was feeling when I had that epiphany or when that thing happened to me. And if I can get them to feel the same way I feel, then usually they'll experience some version of what I experienced. And so it's learning how to tell stories, but in a way where you're interacting and like sharing like the experience you're actually having so they can have the same experience with you. And so if you study Tony Robbins, Tony talks about state control. Like you have to control the state. He talks about for yourself, if you want to accomplish something, you create the state to go accomplish it. But the same thing is true when you're speaking, like you're controlling that person's state. And so by the way you tell the stories, you can make them feel how you felt, right? And so for me, that's one of the keys is just learning how, like, when I'm telling a story, it's like going back, like, what did it feel like? What was the pain or what was the excitement or like that I was really passionate about? And I'm going to go a lot deeper, like trying to explain how I felt in the moment, because then their empathy will give them that same feelings. And then they'll feel it. Like when you drop the line or share the epiphany or the moral of the story, that's when they feel it. And so for me, that's like, I don't know, it's storytelling, but it's getting past details and getting into feelings. Like that's the key.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling it as you're describing that right now, Russell. So, like, I'm feeling your passion and the importance of that. Hey, do you ever use storytelling with like your family, Colette, kids? Maybe we can
I
secretly,
know the
secretly.
joke's always like, my wife's always like, your secrets or your ninja powers don't work on me. I'm like, no, but 100% I do. Cause that's the only way I can get my kids to listen to me. If I tell my kids anything else, they're like, And so for me, it's like, it's fun. I remember in high school, there was this girl who, I worked at a restaurant serving tables and stuff. And she was like the cute girl. Everyone had a kind of a crush on her. And she'd come in every day and every day she'd have the story. So we'd all like get around. She'd tell us the story. And I remember one day she came in kind of frazzled, and I didn't even realize that she was telling the story every single time. All I knew is that like we all were just attracted to her and her personality, all wanted to be around her. She was so fun. And one day she came in kind of frazzled, and we were, the workday started, and all of a sudden she said something. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to share a story with you guys today." And then she's like thinking, she said, "Oh, I have one, come on over." And then she would tell us the story. And it was so cool because like we all felt so connected to her. We didn't know why. But looking back in hindsight, it's like she always came every day with this story. It's like we all anticipated her coming. Like we're so excited to hear it because that was like her pattern. And so for me, again, I'm not perfect at this, but with my kids, I'm like, okay, if I tell them something, if I ask them something that's not going to work, I gotta have some kind of story. And so I always try to come with like, hey guys, I gotta tell you something happened in the office today. Or like, oh, I was watching this thing. Let me tell you guys the story. And then as soon as like you hear the word story, like everyone's ears just perk up. And so it's the only way I can like get through the like get my kids to put down their phones, get my kids to like actually pay attention is some version of that. Same thing's true with my wife. Like it's true with everybody. Like every relationship in my employees the same way. Like if I come in, I'm like, hey guys, that story. Like everyone, it's so crazy how like just the word story, you see everybody like their heads drop or heads, everything drops and everything comes up and they get your attention because like people are just connected to wanting that story. So yeah, I definitely use it in most areas of my life now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely doing too. I know Kaylee does it a lot as well, and particularly with more the Asian style parenting. Our parents never told stories to us. They were like, "You do this, and you do it now." It was very authoritative, and so now we've
Uh,
got to do storytelling. Um,
that's so cool.
on that note, Russell, do you think anyone can learn how to tell a great story?
Oh, 100%. It's definitely a learnable skill. Um, it's funny because a lot of people they try it and then they don't have success, they stop. But I look at my again, I look back at my old videos from 20 years ago, and I would put myself up to almost anybody next, like head to head, and like I'm worse, I promise. And then people, I try to show people like, whoa, you were really bad. I'm like, I know. It's just it's learning like the beats of a story. Here's like the things I'm gonna go through, but it comes back to like just repetition. Like by the time I will tell a story to somebody on stage, like I've told that story a couple dozen times prior to that, right? And I'm doing it because I'm trying to learn the cadence of like how it works. I remember I was at this mastermind group. Hear me, check it out. I'm jumping the story. So I'm practicing my freaks, but I was in this mastermind group with Dean Graciosi, Tom Bilyeu, all these like the top personal development guys in the world. They invited me to this mastermind. I remember, I know who's gonna go. I just remember Brendan Burchard. He was like, "Hey man, you want to come to this mastermind?" I'm like, "Who's gonna be there?" He's like, "Do you trust me?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Show up at this spot at a certain time." And so I'm like, "Oh man!" So I jump in this plane. I fly to some weird spot in Colorado or Montana, some random like little tiny airport. And I get out, and all of a sudden I see like, yeah, I see Tom Bilyeu walk by. I see all these famous people walking by. I'm like, and then Brandon shows up, and we all jump in this helicopter. We jump in the helicopter. We fly to some random campground. We get down there. We're hanging out. Anyway, that night we're sitting around the campfire all talking, and I remember Dean Graciosi shared this story, and I wrote about it in Traffic Seekers because it's so profound. But he said, "Have you ever wondered like how good comedians become good at comedy?" He's like, a lot of people think like, "Oh, that guy is so funny." He's like, the reality, if you look at most of the great comedians, look at their careers. What they do is they sit down one day with a pad of paper and they write out 10 jokes. And they go to a dive bar, they stand on a dive bar, and then they tell the 10 jokes, right? And they'll see like of the 10, like one lands and the other nine just bomb. And they go back home that night and then they get a new pad of paper and they write the one bomb that landed, or the one joke that landed, they rewrite it and they write nine new jokes. Then they go to another dive bar the next day and they try it again. And that time maybe they get 2 jokes to land, but 8 failed. And they go back and they keep the 2, write 8 new ones. They go back and forth and back and forth. So eventually they got 10 jokes that just nail it. And then they go to the big stages and they show up on Tonight Show, like all the big stages, right? And people are like, "Oh, they're so funny." But it all comes from that process. And Dean shared that with me, this mastermind. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's how I never thought about it, but that's what I do. Like if you look at, like when I have an idea for a story, you'll see what happens is, like usually again in the morning time, I'll tell my wife, my kids, I'm just like testing my material. Like I'll say something and they're like, okay. And I'm like, dang, I didn't do it right. And then I'll come to the office and I'll see someone here. I'm like, hey, let me tell you the story. I'll tell a story and I'll tell a little differently, or I'll try something different and I'll see like what things like you see them get excited, which things they kind of ignore. I'm like, okay, I got it. And then I'll tell it to somebody else on like a whatever. Then on my podcast, I'll go on my podcast, I'll record me telling the story again. And then I'll try it 5 or 6, 7 different times before I ever like test it at a live event. So by the time I'm at Funnel Hacking Live and I've got 5,000 people in front of me, the stories I'm telling I know will land because I've practiced them more than once. It's not just like I'm randomly showing up and like, oh, here's this perfect story I've never told before, right? I'm practicing all the time. And so I think for most people, that's what you have to understand is like, if you want to become a good storyteller, it's not it's not a something you're born with or not. It's just something you got to practice. And so it's sitting down, thinking through your stories, then practicing, and then noticing like how people react if they're like half asleep or if they're like, whoa, if they I got chills or something like that. Then you're like, okay, they got chills. Okay, that one I got it. I'm gonna use that again. And you just keep practicing and practicing it, and then and eventually, and this is the coolest thing. I'm sure you guys have experienced this, but when you're on stage, sometimes you're speaking about something and all of a sudden randomly this weird story will just pop in your head that you weren't planning on sharing, but it just shows up magically. And it's always the right thing. Like it just, if you share it, it like always just fits. And I had a conversation with Tony Robbins. He told me the same thing. He's like, I come on stage. He's like, I always have a plan, but he's like, things just show up. And he's like, I always go, what do you say? Like, I never go where I plan, but we always go where we're supposed to be. And like, that's what happens when you keep telling your stories. Like they'll just start appearing in conversations when you need them, when you're in flow and all of a sudden you realize people are getting stuck and all of a sudden the story pops up. You're like, oh, I know that one. And you can go with it. And it's crazy as you get better at storytelling, how these things just appear when you need them. It's really cool.
Wow. Kind of like how they're appearing right now during this. Like you're just going to stories natural. Like, where did he come up with that story from? Because we didn't prepare these questions or anything like that. I know Katie wants to go a lot deeper in some of the things you said, but before we do that, because you mentioned something about the mastermind, because in Mexico, I think I saw you post a real something like you still get butterflies even to this day
Mm,
before you go out on stage.
yeah.
And I thought, wow, like, yeah, over 20 years of doing this and still getting butterflies and stuff. So, do you want to talk to us about that? Or maybe what you make it mean?
Yeah. It's funny because like I remember hearing one time some speaker who was really good. He's like, if you're still getting nervous, it means you're worried about you and not your audience. Like, and I was like, oh man. So I really felt guilty about it for a long time. I was like, I get nervous every time. Like I'm always backstage, and it's like you feel the energy of the room, you see all the stuff, and you're just like, oh, what if all the doubts and the thoughts. And so yeah, for me, I always get nervous. But like the most powerful thing, boom, here comes the story. So the most powerful thing for me was like 3 or 4 FHLs. I remember I was backstage and I was just high anxiety. Those things are so stressful. And Annie Grace came up to me. She's like, "How you feeling?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just nervous. I'm nervous." And she stopped me. She's like, "Did you know?" She's like, "Do you know that if you look at the actual chemical reaction inside your body, like what's happening?" She said that the what your body experiences through when you're nervous and what your body experiences through excitement is literally like exactly the same. Like same chemical makeup, breakdown, everything is identical. The only difference is the meaning you attach to it. That's it. She's like, so if you attach nervous to the meaning to that feeling, you're gonna feel nervous. She's like, you attach excited to that feeling, then you're gonna be excited. And I was like, no, I don't believe it. She's like, just try it. And so the rest of that FHL, every time I get up, I'm like, I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. And then I would go out, and I'm like, weird. I still felt the same, but like the meaning was different. So the experience, it changed the whole experience. And so for me now, it's funny because like I will often get back, like I'm nervous, and then I'm like, nope, I am not nervous. I am excited. And it just changes because you're gonna feel it either way, right? But it's just realizing that the meaning you're attaching is the key. It's not that you're right or you're wrong. It's like whatever meaning you attach to it. But I think people always are hoping or thinking that that'll go away eventually, and maybe it does for some people. But so far for me, it still shows up pretty much every time. So I don't know. It's weird.
Good to know you're human, Russell. Kaylee.
Yeah.
I just hear it because I love all your stories, and I love that you said you just go in flow. Do you have like a favorite story to tell on stage
Oh,
that
I don't
that
even
works
know off the
so
top of my
well for
head.
you again and again that you tested and go, this is like the best favorite story that I tell?
It's funny when I first got started. I remember it was funny when I first got started. Like I was speaking, I was trying to be more businessy. Like I always wear my suit, my tie, trying to be businessy, um, and I would tell stories about like my athletics, you know. And so I would tell. It was interesting because like what people would end up buying is like all of the athletes would buy for me. And then one time it was weird. Like I told a couple people a story about my wife and how we got pregnant with our twins and the whole process we had to go through with infertility and going to doctors and for some reason I was speaking at the time and all of a sudden like that popped in my head and I started going down that. I'm like, why am I telling this story? I was like so confused. And I told the story and then and I get I was back then the kids were still little. I was getting so emotional. I'm like crying on stage and then afterwards it was crazy because like the people start connecting with you were like parents and like just different demographics started connecting with me and buying stuff from me and being part of our world. And so for years, like that was my favorite story to tell was just like the reason why I was in business was because I'd seen what an entrepreneur who risked everything was able to do, how it changed my life. And like I used to love to tell that story. It's weird that as my twins have gotten bigger and bigger, um, I haven't told that story nearly as much, probably because I'm like they're 18 or they're 19 years old now. Crazy. I'm not as emotionally connected to that moment where I get as emotional. I think nowadays, man, that's such a good question. I think it changes, every couple of years. Um,
Or maybe Russell, like
can't
what's the
think.
story that's made you the most money? Like the story that's made you the
Ooh.
the
That's
one that's be like, wow, I want to hear that.
the story that's made the most money is definitely the funnel hacking story about me, my supplement funnel with the Neurocell neuropathy supplement. That one definitely made me the most money because it was like such, it was a story that made people understand funnels. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, people, it's hard to remember 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, before we launched ClickFunnels, like funnels wasn't like a word in people's vocabulary very much. Like there were a couple nerdy people talking about it. You know, there was like Ryan Dice and me, and a couple guys, we talked about it, but it wasn't like a thing. And then when we launched ClickFunnels, I was confused. I thought everybody would know what it was. I'm like, ClickFunnels. They're like, what is that? I'm like, it builds funnels. Like, what's a funnel? I'm like, I don't know how to explain it, you know, and I kept trying to figure out how to explain it. And then the first time I was like, okay, let me show again. I was teaching the concept of funnel hacking, and I showed like, here is my supplement funnel that we launched. Here's how we did it. We found someone, we funnel hacked, and we modeled. Here's what the upsells, and like I showed the whole thing. And then I told that story, and it was like as soon as I told that story, every time people were like, I give a funnel is. Like it was just like they instantly got it. And that's one of the powers of, you know, it's not an emotional story, but it's one of the stories that just like it took a complex concept and then made it very tangible. Where someone all of a sudden they hear that, it's like, oh, I understand exactly what that is now. It's kind of like in the .com Secrets book, I have a section about kind of like bridges, where I'm like, every time you tell you as a speaker or as an author or anyone who's educating, when you share a word that's past like a third or fourth grade level, it gets people tripped up. Like they might not know what it means, or maybe it means something different, or it's just confusing. So anytime we share like a complicated thing with the kind of like bridges, we stop and say, it's kind of like this. And you try to reframe it to something very simple that they actually understand, right? And so for me, like the funnel hacking our neuropathy supplement funnel, like that story was our kind of like bridge for people to be like, oh, I get what a funnel is now. And I understand how it all, like it just instantly they understood the whole concept, right? So for me, that was definitely the story that made the most amount of money because I got the majority of people into the ClickFunnels world.
Wow, so cool, so cool. Hey, Russell, you've had a lot of people introduce you to the stage. And actually, when you talk about your kids before, I saw the skydiving one with your daughter, and that would have
So
freaked me
great.
out so much. Wow. I panic when my daughter tries to do a one-handed cartwheel. Like she's like one-handed cartwheel. Like I freak out. I can't even imagine skydiving. If your kids had to introduce you to the stage, like how would you like them to introduce you? Like what would you like them to say when if that was ever going to happen one day? I'm sure it will. Like that would be pretty cool.
I want to introduce them on stage. That'd be really fun too.
Oh wow, yes.
Um, I think one time my kids said this, I took it as a compliment. They said, Dad, you're the least mature adult or the least mature parent we've ever met. I was like, yes, thank you. No, like honestly, if I was like, how would I want them to introduce me? Is that like I'm a dad who's been present. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, the problem is they get so stuck in this business they don't show up for their kids and their families. And you see so many relationships fall apart when people get successful. And if I had anything that I'm proud of personally, is just the fact that like I'm present there. I'm there for my kids, for my wife. We've got a great relationship. Like, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, always, I don't ever want to jinx anything, but we've got a great relationship, and anyway. So I think if they were to say that like my dad was present throughout my childhood and that he loved us unconditionally, even when we did stupid things, that would be, I mean, the biggest compliment I could ever get from my kids for sure.
Wow, so cool. Kaylee's 9-year-old got into TEDx. So Kaylee, do you want to talk about that? And then I'm sure you got another question too.
I've got a 9 and an 11 years old, two boys.
Uh,
Yes, the 11-year-old became a TEDx speaker earlier this year, and I'm very proud of him.
oh, that is too cool.
Yes. On that note, can I ask that question that we crafted, Richmond? The last
Of
question. Are
course,
we
of
ready?
course. Yeah, of
Because
course, of
I think this
course.
is a very, very powerful question that Richmond come up with. If you lost your voice tomorrow forever, what's that one message you record for your family to hear?
Oh, wow. Um, wow. I think if I could share one message to my kids and my family, I think it'd be twofold. I think the first half would be helping them understand that there's a purpose to why they are here. It's not random, it's not anything, but like they've been given gifts and talents and everything to specifically to help other people around them. And if they will like go all in on those things, they can change the world for other people around them. And then number two would be just that they need to stay close to God, because that's the anchor of people's lives. And whatever the thing that you value most becomes your God. And if you're not careful, it's easy to value something higher. And then everyone's life who I've known who have fallen apart inside of success is because they valued things above God, and then parts of their life just completely fall apart. So I think if they could anchor onto that, and realize that they're here for a purpose, and they go, the joy and the fun of life is like searching out that purpose. Like, what is it and how does it show up and what am I supposed to do here, right? It's like we have a secret mission when we come to this planet, and if you actually believe that, it makes the pursuit of it so much fun and so exciting to kind of go out there and figure out why did God put me here at this time with these skill sets in this situation? Like, let me figure out what I'm supposed to figure out with that. And that becomes the mission of a lifetime, to go figure that out and chase it.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, luckily this is recorded, so let's not jinx it.
When I
Let's just
die, send it to my kids.
if you did lose your voice. On the final note too, like let's just say tomorrow you lost your voice and then you had one final recording for the world. So that was for your kids and now for the world. What do you think the message for the world would be?
Um, Man, these deep philosophical. Yeah, we should never-
Yeah, we were thinking,
man,
what would be like a great last question to ask at these interviews? Like, I never thought, yeah, that would be a great
yeah,
question. Yeah.
it's so great. Uh, I would say I'm writing a book on this concept right now, so it's like top of mind. So maybe that's why. But um, the as you know, the title of my book is Drifters versus the Driven, and this dichotomy between the two. And I think um, one of the things I'm diving deep into, it's really fun, and um, Stephen Pressfield talks about it in War of Art a little bit, but he's talk about there's your calling and there's your shadow calling, and they look very similar, right? Here's what I'm called to do, and that's what people are driven. They go after their calling, and the shadow calling is like it's very similar, which is why it's deceitful. Like it deceives you. Like in the example he talks about, he's like it's somebody whose calling is to be an entrepreneur, but they're scared to do that, so they work for an entrepreneur. Or someone who's supposed to be an artist, but they're scared, so they work as an artist assistant. Or there's someone who's supposed to be a writer, but they're scared, so they're a copywriter for somebody else, right? So it's like they're doing a version of it, right? It's the shadow calling where it feels the same, but you have no risk, you have no reward. And I think that if you want to find pure happiness, it's like figure out what your calling actually is, and like block the fear, block everything, just pursue it with all of your heart, mind. Because if you do that, I don't know, at least for me, like it has been the thing that had made my life more colorful, like more, going from black and white to like color, like that contrast, that transition. And most people never chase it. Most people settle for the shadow calling, like the default version, the drifter version, whatever the thing is that they're trying to pursue. And so I think it's like figuring out what that is and being honest. In fact, I told my one of my twins came by last night. I haven't seen him for a couple weeks, and we're talking about this. And he was like, "Dad," he's like, "that's how I feel." He's like, he's got a job right now working for this audio video company, setting up stages and stuff. And he's like, he gets to hook up, the music and the audio. And he's like, I want to write my own music. I want to do my own video stuff. I'm like, he's like, I'm literally living my shadow calling. I'm like, now you're aware of it. Like you can do that while you're figuring this out, but pursue that. If that's what your calling actually is, like pursue that, because that's what's going to bring the most happiness and joy. And so that's what I would tell the world, and probably my kids as well, so they can hear both of them.
Very cool. We'll make sure we get this recording if that happens. But yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
on that note, Russell, as you're saying, like, thank you for bringing color to your life because it's brought color to both Kaylee and I, and I'm sure everyone watching this as well. So by you making your life more colorful, it's made our lives more colorful as well. So appreciate you so much, Russell. You've had a massive impact on a lot of people, personally myself, a lot as well. And just want to really show my gratitude and appreciate you for everything you've done for us. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks, you guys. I appreciate you both too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.